Anne and Reg Cartwright, the proud and fearless lion. The proud and fearless lion, Anne and Reg Cartwright. Once there was a proud and fearless lion. Every morning at the same time he would go into the jungle and roar his mighty roar. So terrifying was this roar that all the animals would run away and hide, and so loud was this roar that the ground would shake and the leaves would fall from the trees. "That'll show 'em who's boss," said the proud and fearless lion. One night word went around the jungle that it would rain. "There'll be a great storm," said the little mouse. "We must all take shelter." The big animals sheltered in a cave, the smaller ones in holes in the ground, and the birds snuggled together in the trees. "Pooh!" said the proud and fearless lion. "A little rain never hurt anyone." And just to show how proud and fearless he was, he climbed to the top of his favourite hill and went to sleep. All night long it rained and rained, but on he slept. The next morning the rain had stopped, and the jungle was unusually quiet. A gentle mist hung over the trees, and everywhere was still. Mouse woke up, sniffed the air, and listened for Lion's roar. But for the first time ever it did not come. "That's strange," thought Mouse. One by one the animals emerged, and because there was no sign of Lion, they were not afraid. Hippo decided to take a bath, but Mouse was curious to discover what had happened to Lion. "I think we should go and search for him," she squeaked. "What for?" grumbled Giraffe. "He's always been a show-off, roaring and frightening us." "I know he makes a lot of noise," said Mouse, "but has he ever hurt you?" The animals had to agree that Lion had never hurt anyone. So the animals went off to look for Lion. They found him on top of his hill. He opened his mouth to roar, but only a little squeak came out, followed by "a tissue." He was no longer a proud and fearless lion, just a soggy, saggy, snivelling lion with drooping whiskers. "You don't look so frightening now," said Mouse bravely. "I think you have a bad attack of soricus throaticus. It's brought on by too much roaring and sleeping in the rain. We can cure you with honey and eucalyptus leaves, but if we make you better, you must promise not to frighten us again." Lion tried to say, "I promise," but he could only squeak and nod his head. Mouse sent the bees off to search for nectar to make into honey, and the animals and birds collected the eucalyptus leaves. For 2 whole days they nursed and comforted Lion, and for 2 whole nights he slept and dreamed and sneezed and coughed. By the 3rd morning he began to feel better. The proud and fearless lion stood up and stretched his legs. "Good morning, animals," he said politely, but there was no reply. He walked down his hill and into the jungle calling, "Tiger, hippo, giraffe, little mouse, is anybody there?" But the jungle was as sad and as silent as if the animals had never existed. Lion searched through the jungle for many miles. All of a sudden, the little mouse came scurrying towards him. "Oh, brave Lion!" she cried. "Come quickly! While you were sleeping, 2 hunters came and drove the animals into a cage. They are being taken away from the jungle to join a circus. Because I am so small, I managed to escape through the bars." When Lion heard Mouse's story, he began to feel his pride and fearlessness coming back. The jungle would not be the jungle without the animals. "Climb onto my head, little one," he said. "We must go and find them." Mouse knew a shortcut, and Lion followed her directions through the deepest, darkest part of the jungle, where no flowers grew and only snakes lived under the tangled leaves. On and on they went until they came to the very edge of the jungle. In the moonlight, Lion and Mouse could see two hunters sitting by a campfire. The poor animals were locked in a cage. It was a terrible sight. Elephant's trunk was all squashed up and Giraffe's neck was stuck between the bars. That night, Lion and Mouse lay down together and fell asleep, trying to think of a plan to save the animals. By the time that the sun had risen over the jungle the next morning, they had a plan. Mouse sat on top of Lion's head so that only she could be seen over the top of the bush. "Mouse, squeak, Mouse," whispered Lion, and the mouse squeaked as loudly as she could until the hunters heard her. "That's the mouse who escaped," shouted one hunter. "After her," called the other. But that was their biggest mistake. Lion leaped out from behind the bush, roaring the loudest, most terrifying roar he had ever roared. Roar! It echoed through the jungle, and the earth shook and the leaves fell from the trees. "That'll show 'em," said the proud and fearless Lion. The terrified hunters fell over, dropping their guns and keys to the cage. Mouse picked up the keys and ran to free the animals. Soon all the animals were out of the cage. "Thank you, proud and fearless Lion," they said. "No trouble," Lion replied. "Now let's teach those hunters a lesson." So they all lined up, the smallest on the left and the biggest on the right. "Charge!" shouted Mouse, and all the animals roared and chattered and squawked and screeched, and they chased the hunters out of the jungle forever. As they trooped back home, Lion realised he had never felt quite so proud and fearless before, and he kept his promise never to frighten the animals again. But if those hunters ever came back, well, that would be another story.